Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to part 10 of the EVA pod build. Today we're going to actually finish up doing the light boxes on the back wall, getting them wired up, so let's head over to the bench.
Well, okay, it's time to finish building the light box for this. I went through and painted it some black while it was drying. We're good and cured now. Shot a little tulip in these corners because my cutting being off a little bit, plus I think it does sit, that wall sits a little bit at an angle because of the way that piece it's glued onto is. So we filled those gaps. We might have to fill them again when we put the lid down on. But I utilized all my black, so unfortunately I'm going to have to use white for this. This is sheets I got for the Galileo 7. Because I got to build a floor in there. Now you can actually order an interior for it. You can buy the kit, I think, without the interior, with the interior, or you can order an interior if you got the kit without it. I think that's what they're doing. But I already have the 3D chairs, the console, all the little knickknacks, so and it's going to be fun to scratch build. So we just got to here get on the subject. I think at first I'm just going to cut a big square, and then we'll cut it to fit. I could leave the big square edge out here, but here we definitely got to cut it to fit into this, around this handle here. So, but first, from here we'll just cut a big rectangle. And I think that's all we need, and that's pretty non-intrusive. Okay, so oh, I should have kept some of those scraps, because some of those scraps might do this. That's our widest spot. Oh. I think when we go that way it leaves, instead of going long ways this way, instead of going like that. This would be the better way to go. Hopefully this red shows up better on this. Yeah, it's white paper. There's our reference, but now we gotta get the length. Marker's drying up, and when you mark with stuff that has little resistance, like paper has resistance, so it keeps cleaning the tip, but plastic doesn't, and it just gets funky. Alright, so there it is. Here's our rectangle. So we can technically that. Alrighty. Now, for the most part we could have just transferred all that in. Be easy to measure with this. Well, let's see, we go up. About 15 millimeters. one in. Yeah. Coming in about 5 millimeters. Let's see if all this lines up. Oh yeah, that'll work. So what we can do, this is where scissors work so much nicer than razor blades. Sometimes you got to go in there with a razor blade and clean these corners out. Alright, let's see if we got it. There's our little fat T. Beautiful. Perfecto. Good enough. We can even lay it like that. All sides are covered. You do have to give it a little bit of a bend, so I want to put a little crease. Heat it up too. Help. So there we go. Easy breezy. Now we can get the LEDs in there. So we might as well make one of these real quick while we're in the mood. And boy, that's small. Hope I measure that right. Yeah. I gotta drill two little LEDs in there. I might as well mark that for that. There we go. And that's where I can drill the two holes for the 3 millimeters. We could actually start doing that now. That way we can hit it with some super glue and let that cure. And then we all we have to do is stick the LEDs on that one. What I'm doing is taking the de-doming them. Get rid of that dome. It helps diffuse the the light. Try to get them about the same. Yeah, pretty level. I know this one's still grabbing. Pop those in there. Do the same thing. Let's make sure that negative, one of the negatives, whatever, it don't matter which one, is facing a positive. So we're gonna, I'm gonna connect these in series instead of having to do a jumper. And I'll come in on this positive through a resistor, and then out this negative and this positive, and then the negative out to the negative. It's only gonna be 6, or actually 4 volts, because these are only 2 volts draw. Until you set it up for the 2 volts draw. For these two, the resistor I use is I think they're asking for a 180. I think that's what they're asking for. And I have a 150 or a 200, so you go with the next size up. So I'm using a 200 resistor there, and that'll handle with the draw loads too. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so we will let that set for a sec. Cure up, and then we'll bend that negative prong over to the positive prong of the other LED. Perfect. We'll set you aside. So what we can do, really quick, let's see if this, it's pretty tight now. What we can do here is we can actually trace this out. And then there's our cap for the monitors on the big sides. And there we go. So now I got those 2 lids. So what I should do, actually these don't matter, I don't need a lot of. I want to paint it silver to have a little more reflection. I think they're going to be pretty bright, a single 5mm in that little box. I don't think we have to. Okay. So when we start placing these. Keep this one a little more down towards the bottom. Just so it's a little more down towards the bottom, because down towards there is where we're trying to hit. Bada boom. And then our big thing here is how this, because we're just going to angle this one.
don't even know if it fit straight up and down, but we want to just do a little tilt like that because it's trying to hit this one at this corner and this one at that corner. So sure, yep. Got an angle in the right way. Pretty simple. Doesn't hurt for me to tin all of them, especially when I'm not sure what. I think we're going to come in from the bottom and we can loop up. Yeah, we can come in right in here. I think that's how I'm feeding these, I believe. That's the thing I gotta remember how I'm feeding. Yeah, I can come right into that. Come right in here and drill a hole right in there. Hit that one. And loop from there to there, and we're done. Very easy. Okay. We'll get to them. So I gotta get a hole in there for now. Alright, let's get these jumped across though. I hate when it does that. And it pulls the wires out. Especially when you get in a small little run like that. It's probably going to do the same with this. I have to do it this way. So then at least if I get it soldered down, it doesn't want to go. I don't know if I have this. There's a dial you turn on here. I might have just had it set to. It's gripping too hard, you know? That's what I'm wondering. That seems to be working better. I had them torqued way too heavy. So we got a notch this corner out over here. And we can do a pretty big job, it don't matter. It's not light blocking for any reason, it was just easier to run a
full piece of styrene across there. Beautiful. Alright, that's pretty much it. We'll just solder, let's check our work here. Beautiful. Okay, I figure I'd show you how I make these little lights for down here. Got this all blackened up, painted up. I'll look for any seam works. I think we're pretty good as far as lights. Light leaks. We'll do another check. I already did a check through this one and hit any little light leaks. Got a little bit back here, but it's not blaring into anything. It's just, you can see through it. You can't. It's not really throwing light anywhere. So I think we'll be fine. This one here, I forget. Looks like we got a hit up in there, down there. Definitely around where the wire came out and down at the bottom down there. It's really easy to know how to put another coat on top. Get some something back in there. It's really shining against the wall back there, as you can see. That's what all that is. And then we got a good seam right there. I'll cover up. But if it's just coming through like in the back, or it's just doing that, it's not really gonna glow, but we gotta get rid of all that against that wall there. We got these guys glued on here, where I have a negative and a positive right next to each other, so we can bend those guys over. So I like this little tool. It has a notch in it that grabs these really nice. I just gave both of them a little.
Solar res, this is all the paint block. Now this LED I just glued in with regular CA glue.
Angle up.
Get it all light blocked, so that way I don't have any light leaks around the seams. If I have a little gap or something here,
Angle them
it's
over.
not gonna leak light out of it. But the wings fit together really, really good. So same thing, cover this all.
Give it an up bend so they're together.
The emitters here, these are.
So now they're in a one center post, and we can solder them together.
So I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I'll be working on the wing here. When I come back, I'll have it laid out and we're gonna start doing some painting on it. Once we get both wings done, we can glue it to the fuselage and then it'll start looking like the ship. It's looking pretty good. Be right back. Alright, so here we are over the painting area now. I'm getting ready to do some of the paneling detail on the wings. So I thought I'd show you guys how we do that real quick here. We just knock a few of these out so you get the basic technique.
Make sure we got a good solder joint, and we do. And go in. Trim that away. Alright, so we got that negative tied to that positive of that one. So power will come in here. We'll put a resistor on this end, and since we're doing it in series, we want to. There's a lot of good free calculators that you can download to figure out what resistors. I went and bought a bunch of resistors. You can kind of, since what we do, you can kind of get like certain resistors. Like there's people out there that are selling like from this to this range of from 1 ohm to 10,000 ohms. So here you put the voltage of what the bulb is. Let's say it's a 3 volt. And most of them are pretty much at 20 milliamps. Then you have a number of LEDs. I'm just going to put one here. And then you put your voltage, what your main power source is, 9 volts. And you can do custom LEDs, and you can tap in here and choose LEDs,
I finished doing all that.
like a 5mm
Again,
infrared
dusted off,
standard is between 1 volts at 10 milliamps. So they have some standard red. 5mm is at 1.7. I'm surprised they don't have 3mm. This will probably be like 1.7 or 2 volts. The reds are usually lower, and you can get a chart on what standard LEDs are too. That's a good thing to have to download. If you're some will actually tell you, like these all came in individual 3 and 5 volt different colors, and it'll tell you it's 3 to 3.2 volts. That a lot of times they'll tell you. If not, there's a standard for like generic lights, just because of the colors use a certain it's the color, the filament or whatever they use that makes the color kind of dictates the voltage as well. But so you can get a chart, and a lot of times they'll say reds are between 1.7 and 2. I'll use the 2 volt, the higher one, just to make sure. And to have a little more, if I'm using a higher voltage, that means you're going to probably use a more resistance, and that keeps the lights a little dimmer. That's why I always run everything at 9, because for these scale models, 12 volts, even though you can set these up for 12 volts, especially LED strips, can go from, their resistor can handle 9 to 12. The 12 makes them extremely bright, and then it ends up that they look like flashlights and everything's too bright, like if you have windows or like these button displays, they become too bright for the scale. So that's what I'm going to stick with. 20 milliamps, 1 LED, and then your U is your voltage that you're supplying to it. So I'm doing 9 volts. You hit calculate, and boom, there will tell you a resistor. 3 volt LED bulb, one single one at 20 milliamps with a 9 volts power supply. You need a 300 ohm resistor, and it'll even give you the striping so you can identify it. And all this stuff down here I don't worry about. So let's solder our resistor on first. So we got those two together, and what I'm going to do is just take, I'll just kind of come down here and bring that wire, if I can hold it at the same time, and just kind of do a wrap around. And the closer down I can get it, the better. But yeah, you just get a good little wrap around there.
The formula that's out there to figure out how much battery power it's going to need, and it was going to be more than what the plane batteries can handle. You can figure out the milliamp hour on battery spec, and then I took what my amp draw was here, I put the power supply.
And once you get a good wrap and try to get it down really close too, that helps.
So that's not going to
allows you to not have so much wire.
You can't recharge those.
And I'll come in and we'll solder it.
It's a great idea if you've got a really small little project that only has a few lights in it. I'm sure it'll last a long time. You can parallel wire a couple of those together too, and get the same voltage but have
There you go.
more capacity. But I didn't want to monkey around with all that. I might try.
And now you can come in and cut the extra wire off, the extra end from the resistor. You can bend the resistor down and you can get rid of that extra prong from the LED that's past the resistor. Now you got a nice resistor in line, which you can cut yourself a little piece of shrink tube so it doesn't touch anything if you're moving it, which I'm going to do like I did on the other one. Let's take a little bit of shrink tube.
Finding these little kits like that, I wish I would have built a long time ago. This was a little gem right here. I really liked it. I like the Cylon base too. So Okay, you guys, thanks for checking out the video. We always appreciate it. Thanks for all the recent
Slide it all over that whole thing. And that kind of protects it because you're going to be bending and twisting and.
We'll see you next time, everybody, and take care.
I try to use shrink tube whenever possible. It's hard to do it on these little LEDs, you know, where you're looping and stuff. But if I'm coming from a bare wire coming over and then soldering it to these, I try to, because then I try to cover up as much of the bare wire as possible. Probably should find a way to cover that up too, like that centerpiece here. But there's nothing back here. And these I can slide a piece of, like here I already put shrink tube over that resistor, and then when I solder it out, and I leave a little bit so I can solder the wire onto it, and then I can slide its shrink tube down onto it. And the same here, I'll just slide a piece of shrink tube down onto it. And that thing should be out of the way. I don't think she's going to get... There's nothing really back here for it to touch and short, cause a short. So we're really just duplicating that again. So, and then we'll bend her whatever way we have to, but there's our... We can even cut some of this back. We know what positive is because I put my resistors on the positive. You can put the resistors on the positive or negative because basically all it's trying to do is slow down the resistor. All it's doing is squeezing. It's kind of like think about traffic. Electricity is always, electrical is also good. Think about water, but also think in everyday thing, traffic, where another lane on a highway, like especially another main highway, is trying to merge into another highway. Everything slows down. Or when there's construction and they're merging you into one lane, everything slows down. And that's all a resistor does. It doesn't really matter. I've seen people put it on the negatives. I like to put it on the positive. The A gives me a, you know, I don't know, a good marker of what's positive. But it doesn't officially really matter what side you put it on. And it won't really matter which one I do like this. Just got to see which one fits the best. Or is being the most... I might want to keep the positive out that way. But that'll fit that way. And I'd really like to get some power on here and see how it lines up inside. Make sure the bulbs aren't like off to one side. I tried not to. It worked out good for that. So you try not to. You're still. That's one thing about these little things. They just don't clip. I gotta put it down there on that flat spot. Just don't quite grab these. And as you can see, everything's working fine with our calculations. Otherwise, they would have went poof. Or if there was too big a resistor, they'd be really dim. Nope, that works perfect.